You know, the great thing about fly fishing is, at any age you can learn something new. On this episode, I learned something new. I'm Bill Spicer. This is the New Fly Fisher.
Ooh, that's a nice sized fish.
I will catch these all day.
That is what you're in for on this episode.
The New Fly Fisher is brought to you in partnership with Destination Ontario, Orvis Fly Fishing, Scientific Anglers, Trout Unlimited, WeatherTech Canada.
Ontario Lodges and Outfitters look forward to welcoming international anglers when it's safe to travel once again.
Everyone who fishes dreams of the perfect fishing experience, the perfect challenge, the perfect cast, the perfect catch, even the perfect spot in which to wet a line. Fortunately, there's one place where those dreams are met and often exceeded. This is the province of Ontario, where you will find more than 250,000 inland lakes and countless rivers and streams that comprise 15% of the world's fresh water. This week, we are in southern Ontario fishing one of the many trout streams available in the province. Our quarry is brown trout, long considered one of the more difficult fish to catch. My instructor and guide will be Jeff Parks, owner of Calm Waters Fly Fishing. Jeff is a full-time professional guide and has years of experience with clients of all skill levels. We get to the river and see nothing is hatching, so Jeff decided it was wise to start with a streamer. Watch as Jeff gives us some pointers on proper technique.
Okay, actually what I do quite a lot with the people that I have, people from novice to intermediate, is their stance when they're fly fishing, especially when you're streamer fishing, especially when you're throwing big streamers for these big fish. A lot of people will stand just like this, cast it out, and wait and hope. But what I'd like to see what you can do, because these things hit hard, and you got to be, your muscles, your whole posture has to be ready. So what I find, I like to get my 1 foot just a little bit of a head, just like this, as you're saying, get it out there. But see how I'm really low, boom, 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 and I'm really, really tapping it and getting ready. So if that fish does hit, then it's an up to the right motion that sets the hook very well, and you're ready like this. So it's the athletic, if you can call fly fishing athletic, which I'd like to, but you get it out there, and then boom, 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 boom. And I've said it a few times, nothing swims with rhythm other than a human. So always get this fly moving very erratic. I'll do it one more time just to get it out there. And then boom, boom, stop, boom, 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 stop, boom, 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 boom. But you see how I'm reaching with it? And this rod, basically, I'm an extension from my shoulder to that fly. It's just another 3 feet that I'm able to lean with it and be ready for that hit. That's a nice fish too. Oh, he's off. So, what happened there? He hit that hard. I was trying to reel in the slack, and he actually bolted a little bit, very quickly towards me, and was able to shake that barbless hook off. So, fish won, but that was a nice fish. So, just a little bit about this fly that we just had the nice fish on there. It's probably about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, very high sun. Many people use blacks, whites, greens, all the the browns, those colors that work well. But when you get some tough conditions like this, try something a little bit different. Try this yellow. It's got a little bit what we call tiger tail on it, orange tiger tail. And it's an attractor fly. They're probably not thinking about feeding, but it's something different. They haven't seen it probably in a lot of rivers. And that's what I find triggers in really tough conditions, especially for the bigger trout. The small ones don't seem to go for it. It's the bigger boys that that hone in on this different type of a color.
Ooh, didn't mean to. There we go. Get lucky.
Yeah. Try a little farther, a little bit more line out.
Fish. Or I'm on the bottom.
Bottom, I think.
I'm on the bottom. Oh,
Felt good though.
felt good, yeah.
Even a little bit more erratic, like
A little more aggressive?
Stop. And a little bit more aggressive, short
Yeah, okay.
jabs.
We had worked streamers most of the morning with only one hookup. It was time to change tactics.
One more and we'll switch her up.
Okay.
Beautiful cast, buddy. What we're going to work on this piece of river right here is the Euro nymphing. And you can see I'm a little bit closer in than we were when we were doing the streamer fishing, and probably a little bit closer in than we would be if we were using an indicator. There is some cover here, so I feel that I'm not going to spook them. But the reason it's different is that we've taken the fly line right out of the whole situation, and we've got chameleon 12-pound line that I've attached to my fly line. So it's very, very hard to see. And attached to that is what they call cider tippet. And then attached to that, we have tippet. And this is a 4X tippet. This is probably maybe about 2.5 or maybe 2 feet. We want to have the rod tip up very, very high. And we're trying to actually just tap the bottom completely and not have any line manipulating the drift. And that's what you can do with this Euro nymphing. So what I like to tell the people that are working, think of this whole piece of water right here that we're fishing. Think of it as a big piece of butter. And what you want to visualize this line as a hot wire. And what you're trying to do is take that hot wire and cut that butter. So if I put that in like this, I lift it up, then I'm going to drop it down to an area where I'm just trying to find the bottom. And you see how I've actually cut through the water there. Again, like the butter, it's like a hot wire. I'm just trying to cut through that and keep it high up. And also what you want to do is lead the fly a little bit with your rod tip. You want to not be behind here, because then that manipulates the fly and stops its flow. You don't want to have it going too quick, but you want to lift up, drop, and then keep dropping until you can find where the bottom may be. And if there's any movement, what you'll find, you're looking at your cider tippet, and if there's any movement, does it stop? Does it move? Does it just have a little movement to it? If you can feel anything, always be an optimist and think that's a fish. Because most people, when they think they feel something or the line moves, they think it's bottom, and they just give it a little bit of a little tap. But always be an optimist and feel as though there's a fish on every time. It may be bottom 80% of the time, or 90% of the time, but it's that 10% that's going to be able to get that hook and have it so it's not being spit out from the fish's mouth. Fish. Yeah.
Fish.
That's a good sized fish too.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Just let him play. It's probably not a bad size in there. I mean, he's using the current.
It feels heavy.
Yeah, feels got a nice feel to it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a nice fish there, Bill.
Beautiful.
Well, that's going down. It's got some.
It's got some shoulders to it.
I was going to say it's got some energy too. So don't force them, but when you can, we're going to try to get them towards me, towards the net.
Okay, I'll bring him down then. Feels heavy. It doesn't look that big, but it feels heavy.
It's a nice looking fish though.
Very good.
Beautiful fish.
Awesome. Now, Euro nymphing. We got high sun today. Indicators were spooking them, what we felt. So we went with Euro nymphing. And here's the result. Nice brown trout.
Lovely done.
Lovely.
Nicely done.
Yes. Huh. He fought much harder than the size he was. He had a lot of heart. I hit him in that there and my rod bent right over. It was great. Then it just went for a zzz.
Yeah, it went out
great.
there. And the water's nice and cold, so they got a
That's
lot
what
of
it is, yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
And this is just a perfect spot for them to, this is the epitome of a trout hole right here. Calm waters fly fishing, I started this about 12 years ago and been guiding for 12 years now. And we're a full service guiding company where we have drift boats, and so we do a lot of drift days, but we also do many walk and wade days. We do a lot of days for corporate companies. We hone in on them quite a bit. We would like to say that's one of our specialties. We also do a lot of learn to fly fish, and for people who are just wanting to get into the game. And our course, I think, is second to none. We cover all species here in Ontario, the southern central Ontario. What we have is the steelhead, obviously, salmon, getting into the brown trout, the rainbow, the resident trout, the smallmouth bass. We have some trophy smallmouth bass in our rivers, and we love all species, but I do love my smallmouth, carp also, and the muskie. So we cover pretty well all gambits and all the fish that are swimming in our rivers. We target them. We know where they are.
Fish on.
Oh. A little acrobat on that one.
Yeah.
The nice thing about these fish, they are just wild.
A jumper. Brown trout that jumps. Good man. I'll let you handle that one.
All right, buddy.
Very nice.
Here's our setup now for the Euro nymphing that's been so successful for us today. I've got 12-pound chameleon line that I've attached to my fly line. I probably put about 30 feet of this on, which means I am able to bury the fly line into the reel, so the fly line is not used at all. It's taken right out of the picture. Attached to that, I have attached probably about maybe 4 feet of what they call cider line. Here it is, or as they call it, we call it sometimes bubble gum, popsicle line, whatever you want to call it. And you can buy it just like a spool. And this is 4X tippet, is what it is. So we attach that to the 12-pound chameleon. And attached to that then is 4X tippet here. And I've probably got maybe 2.5 feet again here. I've attached that 4X to the 4X cider. I've gone down to the top fly here, and I've attached a second fly because the regulations say we're able to do that here. If I was on an area where you had one fly, barbless only, obviously I would just have this fly behind it. You do not need sometimes a split shot. Depends on the flow. Today our flow is pretty high, so I have attached a split shot. Again, probably maybe 8 inches ahead of the top portion of the top fly. A lot of times, because these are tungsten heads, you don't need this, but I really wanted to depth charge it down very quickly.
Oh, did you see that?
Did you see that?
That was huge.
That was huge.
Okay. He followed it up.
He did.
There we go.
Let him go. Oh, nice.
Rainbow.
Is that a rainbow?
Oh, let go.
Oh, darn.
Let go. That was the fish.
That was the fish.
That was the fish. Wow. That fish, we rolled it earlier. Wasn't even 5 minutes before we rolled it. We both saw it when wow, there's the fish. And I felt it was right at the very end of my drift, and I couldn't drift it any farther down and control it. So what I did is I took a step down and did the same thing, and that's when he hit.
And what I like what you've been doing in the last, probably last half hour, even better than before, is that you've been dropping your rod tip as it goes farther and farther away from you. So you're keeping that fly right down at the level of the fish for much longer of your drift. And you did that right, and that just hit it.
This sighter system here is dredging the bottom. It's not anything like indicator fishing at all.
No.
It's more feel. And I'll tell you, when the fish hit, you know it. Wham!
I know.
That was really something.
Awesome. There's another one in here.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's give it a go. Booking is always, if you can do it as early as you can, especially for steelhead. Now, our prime time for steelhead is end of October, really into November, and then into the early parts of December. So for something like that, you know, in July, August, if you can be, you know, giving us some dates, you should be able to be pretty good. We should be able to accommodate you. For brown trout, when we get into this May and June, I would please try to give us a couple months on that. But our bass days, our smallmouth bass days, we do a lot of sight fishing for them on walking trips, so for July and August. And again, give us a good month and a half at least to be able to get you in there, especially also for the musky drifts in the July and August and September. So, you know, more time for the steelhead. Give us time, because that's a very there's not too many days involved that we can get out for them, because they are migratory. And but for the trout, you know, maybe a couple months.
Working closely with Jeff Parks is an Airbnb called Tiny House, hosted by Jill. The establishment has 2 cabins, one situated near a trout pond and the other one at river's edge. Guests are welcome to explore the trails around the 50-acre property. The area has much to offer, such as hiking, swimming, and kayaking, and one of the nicest stretches of trout streams found in Ontario.
I got your back.
Yeah, I don't feel the footing here seems to be better.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it must be just deeper and the sun not penetrating it.
Yeah, fish. Now, this is probably the prime time of day that the fish are biting. We're not finding they're an early bite. We're finding once the bugs start coming off, the fish start biting. This isn't a very big fish. I got to look at it when it came up, but I'm...
It's a jumper, though.
Since I lost the last one...
We'll get this one.
I'm gonna take it easy on this one.
Get some redemption and get this one in the net. You got it.
It's small brown.
Awesome. Nicely done.
Bring it back here, and... These are wild fish, aren't they?
They are.
So
Wild as they come.
That's a good sign when you get yearlings like that.
Isn't it, though? We're going to talk a little bit about flies here that we are using in this last couple of days, and pretty well. This is a fly box that I have. I use exclusively. I've got a couple of them, and you can see I got all different array of colors. These are all tungsten head flies. I have my top 4 right here that seem to be, maybe I fish some more with confidence, but they do seem to hit most of the fish. And my number 1 fly, it's not very impressive, but it's this fellow right here, and that's just a green midge with a sparkle black collar. That is the potato chips of the fish here, because they'll be eating minnows, they'll be eating what is hatching during the day at times, but they will always be eating midges, and they are smaller, but they're very effective. My second favorite is the Frenchie here. It's a pheasant tail with a white collar. A very, very effective pattern that gets their attention with the collar. And you could put different collars, red, green, but the white seems to be the best. Over here, just a nice yellow color. Again, I do like yellow, Paragon style. This is more of a type of a tungsten fly that actually depth charges and gets down right away. So if you've got some water that you need to really get down far, this one leads the way. And the red midge, red and copper midges, but the red is great because if you have different colors of water, if the water is stained, this is what you're looking for right here. And so those are my top 4. I'll use all these because you have to have options, because until fish can talk, we have no idea what they want. So you have to have lots of options in your box. But these are the top 4 that we will work on you. And you notice that I have a gunmetal head on these. We're fishing these cold water streams. This is not a tailwater, so it's very, very clear. And so with this gunmetal, I find it doesn't spook them at all. Sometimes when you have this gold head, there may be a sparkle from the sunshine that maybe just move them away from it. So nice and subtle with the gunmetal heads, and that's the way to go with these tungsten flies that will sink. We're going to talk about the streamers now, and many of the time when we use these, it's in the very early morning, up to maybe around 11 o'clock, and in the evening. And there's always a lot of array of colors that you should be using. What I like to start out with first is a nice, fat looking white streamer. White in the morning just seems to really be effective. And I like these flies that they tie here because I put a lot of dubbing on the head, which gives them a fat profile. And that's what they're looking for, something that, because they're hungry and they're eating these minnows. If that's not doing what it's just supposed to be doing, and a lot of these we were using, so they're a little wet, but you go to the black. This has some red fleck in it. Red is always fantastic within black, and black does show up pretty much in any type of water, especially the darker, milky water. Black was probably the one that will show up the most. Green, you can't go wrong with green. If you have a river that has a lot of frogs in it, which most of them do, you can see it's got the rabbit tail here, and it's got a little bit of flash to it to create some activity, but it's also got the red eyes, and sometimes the red eyes is what they look at. Everything looks at the eyes when they're about ready to attack. What we also have, though, what a lot of people do not fish with, is yellow. And this, with a tiger tail, orange tiger tail, and the yellow and a little bit of ribbing right at the collar here of the orange ribbing is really effective. We hit a really big one yesterday at maybe around 1:30, midday, very sunny. And he hit this because it's different. So anything that might be different, use it. Don't forget to use yellow.
There used to be a lot of big fish right down in the gorge at one time.
Yeah.
There's all that pocket water, but it was really difficult to... There we go.
Oh, little guy.
There we go, little guy.
Oh, you gone?
Oh, he lost.
Oh, he's gone, darn.
I can't win for some reason.
I know.
Keep losing fish. But that was a definite whack.
Wasn't it right at the end?
Yeah,
as
right
it was,
at the end.
As
it started to emerge, to rise up and swing.
Yeah.
That's an important point to make, is when you've done your drift, let it swing out, because it's just like an emerging bug, coming from the bottom, rising up to emerge. They think that's where that one hit, was on the swing. He nabbed it.
Exactly. And right at the end, if you could almost do a little bit of shaking, nervous bug-like,
yeah,
that's what's going to get it. On our day today, we've used 3 different setups. The first setup in the morning that we've used is the streamer rod. I like to have a streamer rod 9 foot, 5 weight or a 6 weight. I wouldn't go anything more when we're talking the big browns here, but a 5 and a 6 weight will work out just perfect. What you want to have also is the matching reel to it. And I like to have the streamer rod a little bit more stiffer, a little bit more medium flex, because you're going to be throwing some bigger flies. That way it's a little bit easier to get the flex and get that fly out there. Then what we've done secondly is we've taken a look at we've used the indicator rod. And the indicator rod is again, it's a 9 foot rod. I like to use a 6 weight for it. A lot of people like to use a 5 weight, but because you are throwing this indicator and some weights with it, something a little bit stronger is easier to be able to get that indicator up into the current, and also a matching reel with that, and that'll get the action moving. And then we move over to what we're using quite a bit today, is the Euro nymphing setup. And a 10-foot rod is probably your best way to go. This is a 4-weight that we're using today. You can also use a 3-weight. A 3-weight is fantastic because what you need from a rod like this is a sensitivity to be able to see the line moving if the fish does hit it. And that tip will allow that, with that sensitive tip and that length, that'll allow you to see the vibration in that line. You've a matching reel also, but the reel is not that as much important as it is in these other situations here because you've actually buried the fly line within the reel.
I had lost too many fish for my liking. I figured it was because I was a little late with the strike. This could be because I'm not real experienced with Euro nymphing, so I asked Jeff to show me how it's done.
There's a nice fish here.
Oh,
it's
yes,
not as big as I thought he was again.
Yeah, they're fighting bigger.
Fighting unbelievable. I also like to tell people when we're fighting it is to put this here, this edge right in the crook of their arm.
And always have your hand on the cork.
You got it.
Your hunch bait. No, that's a decent fish. Nothing wrong with that fish. Now, I was taking a bit of a break, and I had Jeff continue fishing and see what he could do with that Euro nymphing, and he stung into a nice, it's about 18 inches. Jeff, what was it like?
Well, it was what I did actually just before we did that. I tied a very small, light cream color midge with a black head. Thought we'd try something a little bit different. And when I went into that hole there, I actually felt 2 little ticks, thinking maybe it was something very, very small. But this was a definite thud. It just hit, boom, and it was gone.
Yeah. That was a great fish, Jeff. Now, this technique takes a bit of getting used to. You know, a bit of learning. You got a learning curve. But to me, it's so much more effective because you don't have an indicator above to spook the fish. And sometimes when you get clear water like this, an indicator is a detriment. This sighter method, to me, makes sense.
Makes sense. And with an indicator also, sometimes what happens is that there's a lot of slack between the indicator and that fly. And what happens is that the fish will take it because there's a little bit of slack because of the different depth. It's able to spit it out. But with this Euro nymphing, when you put it down, you're straight down. As soon as you can feel anything, you can feel a weed on that, you give it just that little tip. And
you do feel
line.
it. You do feel it.
You do, you do feel it.
Yeah, you do feel it. Excellent, excellent. This is a little more difficult with the wind, though.
Yeah, it ain't easy.
Oh, just fish on.
Is that a fish?
Yep.
Attaboy. It's
Fish
got a
on.
little girth to it. Attaboy.
Feels like it's not too bad.
Oh. Oh yeah, no, that's a good. Well, that's a great fish.
Can you get a look at it?
Yep.
I just seen a little bit of a flash, and that's it.
That's a good fish.
Oh, it's a good fish, yeah.
Again, another midday fish.
Now, what I was doing is I was on this side and I had to get deeper because this is not a long distance type of fishing. You got to get closer. So very gently I moved over and run it more down the center. There's 2 rocks that they were between. Oh, this is a good fish.
Got him.
Get him?
Nice fish.
Good man. This is great. This new technique. I've not done this too much. This sighter fishing. Your feel is absolutely phenomenal on it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how you can actually connect with these fish.
Drink.
Connect with these fish, and it's so subtle sometimes that you don't even know it's there.
That was like if I can explain it, was like a softness where everything was tick, tick, and all of a sudden it went soft. So I set the hook, and that was a fish.
That's the hard part, is that setting of the hook.
Yeah.
So good job.
What I had to do was get a little bit closer. This is not a technique for far away from yourself. The closer you can get to the fish safely, the better. And so I went 3 steps farther in, and that made the difference. And it was a different feeling. It was like a sponginess that I felt that just did not feel right, so I set the hook, and that was the fish. Well, we run out of time for this week. I highly recommend you call Jeff Parks at Calm Waters Fly Fishing for your next outing. He's a great instructor. You learn something new. I did. For more information on this show and others in our series, visit us on the web at thenewflyfisher.com. From all of us here at The New Fly Fisher, thanks for joining us. Tight lines, we'll see you next week.
The New Fly Fisher is brought to you in partnership with Destination Ontario, Orvis Fly Fishing, Scientific Anglers, Trout Unlimited, WeatherTech Canada.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Ontario will be here waiting for you when it's safe to travel.